Hello everyone, it's oh my gosh, I just knocked into my bottle. Hello everyone, welcome. It's Raleigh, and today we're getting some news. There was like a press coverage of Visions of Eternity, and there was a lot of details. A lot of posts came out. What I found was there was two articles that came out from the press thing or whatever, and so I want to cover both of those, and then the second one we're going to look at actually had a like map fly through of map one, and you can actually like I don't think it's necessarily attached to the article, but it was like at the bottom of the article. So we're gonna look at that at the end, and we're gonna kind of analyze and see what we can find in there. Yeah, but news are ramping up. There's a lot of things that are coming out now. They're trying to build the hype, right? Like right now is the time where Arena is gonna build the hype. So we have another week until the release. And I just put out, for those of you that don't know, I just put out a even more theories out yesterday. I put a video out. I worked on that video like quite a few times because I had to re-record it multiple times. But it was super fun making that video because I feel pretty. I feel pretty good about the theories that we had, right? So that's the second video that I've made where we kind of sat down and I looked at all the different theories that everyone kind of has come up together with and whatever, like, and kind of summarize them. So there's two of those videos. If you guys want to check that out, it was really cool. One thing that I realized after the fact, because I was looking up Guild Wars Utopia. And I wanted to address this because I could have highlighted that more if I had known before I recorded the video, okay? And what I'm talking about is I was talking about Guild Wars Utopia, which, is the canceled expansion for Guild Wars 1 that very like a lot of people like the idea of, and they wanted to see that play out. But then they canceled that because all of like many of the ideas that they had for Utopia weren't possible in like the game of Guild Wars, and so they decided, you know what, let's just make another game. And so they scrapped Utopia. They made Guild Wars Eye of the North to bridge into Guild Wars 2, and kind of carry these ideas into Guild Wars 2 and stuff like that. So they took some ideas into Eye of the North, and as Guild Wars 2 was coming out, they took many of the ideas as well. There's a lot of like I said, if you guys ever have time, go on the Guild Wars wiki and just look at Utopia, because there's a ton of concept art, a ton of really, really cool concept art. And there's a couple of them that you'll even look at and be like, wow, that is definitely Guild Wars 2, or that is something that we've definitely seen in Guild Wars, right? But there's a lot of really cool ideas that they had for it. And a few weeks or months even now at this point, I talked about Prince Metu the Wise, which in Guild Wars 1 was one of the merchant princes of Vabi, and you can go to his library. He's like this scholar, right? And he has this giant library from texts from all over the world, and you can kind of talk to him, and you can, and you can kind of get some info. And he brags a little bit, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my library has like all of it, right? Like I have texts from Or, from Kryta, from Ascalon, from like all these places." And then he mentions this island. He's like, yeah, so, and I got stone tablets from this island, and once, and that shortly after they grabbed the stone tablets, whoever the people were, right? Like maybe it was himself or someone else, but he's like, as soon as they grabbed those tablets, the island disappeared. And so supposedly, and I found this out yesterday, I did not know this actually, but in an interview, or not an interview, in one of the forums, someone had asked about Utopia, and this is years ago, because I actually do remember reading about that like years ago, but apparently one of the developers had answered some questions about Utopia on the Guild Wars 2 forums and talked about how that dialogue, there was a lot of different items in Nightfall, which was the Alona release, which was the final one that was supposed to lead, that was the next one was supposed to be Utopia, and there was a lot of hints that were put into Nightfall that were supposed to hint at Utopia. And one of the things is actually this dialogue from Prince Metu, where he talks about this mysterious island and the stone tablets and stuff like that. And it was supposed to be a hint towards that. So I'm kind of thinking, like, if we're leaning on Utopia and we're kind of doing the Mesoamerica, we're doing kind of the myth story a little bit, and like all these things, like maybe some god stuff, then you know, is that like a little bit of a confirmation that, hey, that is exactly that island? It was just like, changed in the canon, that it's not this mysterious island in the mist anymore, but it's now on Tyria or whatever. I don't know, but it's just really cool because I was like, oh, that builds an even stronger connection to what's going on right now. So I did want to point that out. But yeah, let's go into it. Let's look at the article. I still have the kitty cat up, so I'll leave that up there, but let me check something here. Okay, let me pull up these. All right, so this is This Week in Videogames.com, and they did a preview. Now, I don't think I've ever covered this website. Like, I don't think I've ever even seen this website, so this is kind of interesting. But yeah, anyways, so here's the preview. Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity isn't making a huge splash, but that might be okay. Okay, our in-house Guild Wars 2 fanatic, Austin Bolliger, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, was chopping at the bit to preview the latest expansion for the long-running MMO, though first impressions didn't exactly make huge waves. It's kind of concerning, huh? So let's kind of go through. There's a lot to cover, so I'm gonna just try to read through and not stop every 5 minutes to give my opinion on whatever, right? It's no secret that I'm a big fan of Guild Wars 2, so naturally I've been eating up every breadcrumb of its upcoming expansion, Visions of Eternity. Trailers, blog posts, live streams, you name it. When I was invited to get some hands-on time with it, I was more than happy to oblige, even if it meant waking up at 2 a.m. on a Monday morning. Jesus, why that? That is strange. I guess it must have to do with like where he's located at, because if he's somewhere in Europe, then that kind of would make sense, I guess. Or like if he's, I guess he would have to be like somewhere on the other side. I don't know. The preview began with Guild Wars 2's narrative lead, Indigo Lind. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm so bad with names. You guys know that. I'm really horrible with names. That's still one of the things that I've always... setting the scene. The story here is that we've noticed the Inquest, a shady faction of the Asura, the game's highly intelligent, diminutive race, appear to be highly active off the shores of the main continent. The investigation leads us to the sandy shores of Castora, an until now hidden island seemingly seeping with magic, something the Inquest no doubt hopes to exploit. Still, again, still find that very strange, until now hidden island. We're gonna have to see how that works. I was also thinking about what I talked about yesterday, that like sea travel wasn't possible because of the Elder Dragons and because of Zaitan, but it's weird that this magic that's like seeping with this island seeping with magic has been hidden away, and the Elder Dragons didn't want to go there. Kind of strange, but we've seen this before. While we were able to play through one story mission in our preview, it wasn't enough to grasp exactly what the Inquest are planning here, nor where the broader story of Visions of Eternity will take us. All I managed to glean was that it involves two Inquest leaders butting heads on ideals. One of them, Overseer Kuda, a character who's previously only made brief appearances in the form of holograms. The one at the top of the operation appears to be a new character, Seb. Not much is known about his history or motivations, just that he appears to be experimenting on the local fauna with some newfangled technology. Okay, so we kind of they're butting heads, which is interesting. But yeah, it's Overseer Kuda and Sep, so that's very interesting. Interestingly, Lynn taught it Visions of Eternity as the action movie expansion. Okay, it's unclear what exactly that entails, but my hope is that it implies exciting, bespoke set pieces, something that's been sorely absent since the End of Dragons expansion some 3 years ago. Like Castora itself, though, the broader narrative remains shrouded in mystery. I didn't find myself as captivated by what I saw compared to the prior two expansions, which introduced entirely new races and a clear direction for where the story was headed from the jump. entirely new races? When did we get entirely new races? Like, the Coden are not entirely new races. Like, not entirely new race. And all the other races, I mean, the Cryptas, I guess, were, like, but they're like demons. That's not necessarily a new race. They're just like a faction of a race. So I don't know. I was similarly lukewarm about Castor as the expansion's new location. We were only able to explore the first map, Shipwreck Strand. Shipwreck Strand, I think, is a Guild Wars 1 location, and that's like where, if you guys would know, so where the crate area is in the northeast area of Caledon Forest, right? That beachy area out there with the crate. In Guild Wars 1, I believe that location, right around there somewhere, was called Shipwreck Strand, I believe, which harbored tropical beaches and various castaway settlements constructed from the remains of the shipwrecks, living up to the map's namesake. It certainly feels a bit too familiar in that Guild Wars 2 has already had its share of beachy, pirate-occupied locales before. The likes of Bloodtide Coast, Southsun Cove, and even Old Lion's Arch spring to mind. But nonetheless, I feel like we never really, because Bloodtide Coast is such a transitional map where I feel like not a lot of people spend time in there. And it doesn't also, while it has beaches, it doesn't really feel that beachy to me. There's also like kind of this mire area, this like swampy mire area like in the north, and then a lot of it kind of blend, like, I don't know, I feel like they never highlight the beachy theme of it. Southsun Cove is completely irrelevant for the most part nowadays. Like, no one really goes there and no one really deals with it. And Lion's Arch was a city, so we never really had, like, if I think I'd still be excited to see like a beachy map, like a level 80 beach map, right? But anyways, I only explored a small portion of it though, so perhaps other areas of the map offer more of that ancient magical island feel. There's also every chance this familiarity is intended to juxtapose a second map available at launch, which senior game designer Nick Hernandez hinted at on multiple occasions as being wildly more complex and alien. Interesting. And we get a picture here. We get a screenshot. Oh my god, why is this loading? Okay, well, we got that. Really? I can't pull up the picture? I'm using, just so you guys know, I'm using a different browser than what I usually do, because the browser that I usually do, I don't know what's going on with it, but I can't watch videos on it. They're stuttering and laggy, and I've tried everything to fix it. So I'm having to use a different one, but that's okay. We're gonna kind of just, this is, I feel like, an area we've kind of seen. We see some shipwrecks here, obviously. Again, I will tell you guys, this very much reminds me of a New World Eternum. Okay, like, just for those of you that don't know, so New World for me, I actually was in the alpha of New World. I actually played alpha. I had alpha access, closed alpha access for New World, and I played that. So I've been following that game and been a part of it for like a long time. And I play it now too, but I don't. I played. I don't know. I'm always busy in Guild Wars 2 when I'm not making videos or working, so it's kind of hard for me to focus on specifically playing New World, but I do like it. I do like New World, but it just reminds me of that because the starting area is also a shipwreck. Again, I told you guys yesterday in the video, right? New World is about the island of Eternum, and how there's this storm that's surrounding it all the time. And when you start the game, you start on the beach where there's all these shipwrecks. And so again, this really reminds me of that, like 100%, seeing all these shipwrecks and stuff like that, and having to explore that on your skimmer. I wanted to look at the map a little bit, but I can't seem to be able to pull up the image, so that kind of sucks. But where I did find novelty in its location was in its abundance of waterways, likely intended to promote use of the expansion's newly revamped mount. where the previous expansion of the Janthia Wilds took the CAD-like workflow and updated it with additional traversal and combat abilities, Visions of Eternity does the same for the Skimmer. We already knew this. This was a mount introduced back in the Path of Fire expansion, a sort of hovering manta ray that specialized at moving quickly, both above and underwater. Handier than ever here, given this map's abundance of water bodies, but now with the added ability to hover at greater heights and perform speed-boosting barrel rolls, what was once a largely neglected mount now feels closer in line with the others for general traversal. The Skimmer can now also fire water projectiles that heal allies and damage enemies. I don't suspect this will see much use, but a welcome addition nonetheless. I feel like there's going to be some kind of person that's going to just sit on their mount and just going to shoot the whole time and not engage in any other way. I'm sure that is gonna be the thing, right? After getting familiar with the Skimmer's new capabilities, Hernandez guided our convoy toward a nearby event. A song could be heard, luring nearby civilians into the water and toward an island just across the stream. We make our way there and find not a siren, but in fact a sort of T-Rex outfit with an exoskeleton, resembling something straight out of Horizon Zero Dawn. The encounter involved using crowd control abilities to break its shield and to break out fellow players trapped in bubbles, all while dodging AoEs and ringing bells to snap out its entranced victims. An enjoyable encounter given the number of plates to spin, though the boss's lag of movement did make it feel less dynamic than Guild Wars 2's best encounters. Okay, so we get this big old raptor guy. I probably can't pull up the picture, yeah. It's usually, I don't know why that is going on. That's kind of weird. I think it might be my ad blocker or something blocking that, but anyways, so we get some Astral Ward here as well. That's kind of who's involved. And he's playing as a conduit. We can see that. But yeah, we get one of those big raptors. So it's interesting. Horizon Zero Dawn, right? So, and yesterday it was crazy how I found all these comparisons to all these different things, right? Like I talked about Digimon, I talked about Godzilla, I talked, a little bit about New World. Now we have Horizon Zero Dawn. This seems to be like this, let's take ideas from different things and make like this Guild Wars 2 version of all of these things, right? So that's kind of cool. That's a big raptor. Okay, up until now, we've only seen the smaller raptors. That's a big old raptor. So, again, the theory that we have right now is that there is some kind of mecha elder dragon or whatever, right? So yeah, okay, well, let's continue. Ooh, that looks cool. An encounter I was a little more disappointed by was the map's world boss. This involved two pirate bosses sharing a single health bar, and players were marked by magnetic polarities to donate which boss they could deal damage to. So if you were given a plus sign, you attack the boss with the plus symbol. Okay. And minus is minus. I'm unsure how I feel about the streamlining of mechanics here. Traditionally, mechanics like this would be solved by the players, dividing the group into teams to tackle separate bosses and having to coordinate burning down separate boss health pools simultaneously, with those things instead dictated by the mechanics. The social and strategic elements that make many of these marquee encounters so engaging were seemingly missing here. Okay, so it's a very simplified world boss, I guess. So we're getting another world boss, but it kind of tells you which one you can attack, and they only have, so you don't have to organize it anymore. You don't anymore. You don't have to organize this one. You're just automatically dependent on if you get a plus or minus, which we've seen before. If you guys have played Fractals, in the uncategorized Fractal, you also get the same thing where you have like a minus or a circle above you, and dependent on that, you can be like, you can't be like close to each other if you have the same symbol or something. So we've seen something like that before in that kind of sense. But if you get a plus, you have to attack the guy with the plus. If you get a minus, you have to attack the guy with the minus or something like that, right? And so it's already decided. This doesn't have to need a commander. I kind of like that idea because, like I said, one of the things that I feel like I keep seeing a lot is when I look at Janthia's Sentry, and I understand where he's coming from with having the simplified mechanics, and this doesn't feel like anything advances. It doesn't feel like it's this, high up on the like list. But when I look at something like Janthia Wilds, right, GN3 Sentry specifically. Like, yes, people are running the world bosses there right now. But as we're moving on with expansions, people aren't probably going to go back to those. And it's going to be much harder to organize those now, right? So, because now, you know, in like 2 years from now, like maybe in a year, like maybe this coming expansion, you still will have people running, Decima and Greer, right? Like killing those. But I feel like in like a year or so, people aren't really going to go back there. And they're going to be fail rates. The fail rates are going to be so high because no one's going to be there to do this encounter, really. And it's going to be like you have to really organize it and really have to like get a guild involved or something. And you can't just like passively go there and say like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this for like whatever while I'm hanging out here. It has to be like an organized thing, right? And that's something that I actually, in the GN3 Wilds review that I did, I talked about how I think that's going to be pretty crappy, right? Because people are gonna want to do the easier world bosses that are not gonna fail, right? So having something that is streamlined like that, where you have 2 enemies and you get designated on which one you attack, and they have 1 health bar, that I feel like is more in line with old world bosses, and also means that it's gonna be completed like much more often. You know what I mean? Like like people are going to actually go through years later and do that content, right? So, sorry, there's like a child screaming. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's kind of weird. But anyways, Hernandez implied that this streamlining was to bring the difficulty closer in line with the core game world bosses. Okay, well, exactly what I just said. While great for newcomers, that seems at odds with what ArenaNet have suggested previously, that these expansions are actually targeted toward the rusted-on players like myself. Have they suggested that? Is that I feel like that I've never heard this before. But that could be me completely like just having ignored that or something, because that sounds like something I would like read over and like not even register in my brain, like it'd be gone, you know. But that seems kind of strange because I feel like I've never heard that before, so I don't know. All that said, he did make clear that dev hacks were enabled in this preview to make for a smoother experience, so perhaps my concerns with difficulty will be assuaged when the expansion hits the live game. It was also great to hear that the second map does indeed house a proper large-scale meta event rather than just a world boss. Okay, cool. So we're getting a world boss and we're getting a meta event, which is cool. I like that. We're gonna have to see exactly how that works out. Okay. There's also adventures. There's 2 adventures I see on the map, you guys. So there's something adventure related. I don't know. I can't, like I said, I can't pull up the images, but there's definitely something adventure related there. But yeah, so we're getting a meta event in the world boss that's gonna be more difficult, I'm guessing, right? And that's gonna be more about organizing that. While many of the new armor and weapons shown weren't doing much for me, a standout reward coming with this expansion is the game's first legendary aqua breather named Silicamorpha. I don't know how to pronounce that. Whatever. Which makes players sprout fins all over when submerged. Is this... Oh, yeah, okay, this is it right here. I didn't even notice that. So you get all these fins. Okay, that's cool. I like that. That's pretty cool. You know what? I was never thinking about getting a legendary aqua breather, but now I am. I like that a lot. It makes you when submerged. This also comes with a matching helmet skin, so you can flaunt it on land. But the helmet skin itself doesn't really look that great. Just without the fins, sadly. ArenaNet hinted there will be 3 other legendaries to chase, though didn't mention them during this preview. 3 other legendaries? We were told of 5 other legendaries. We were told of 6, right? We were told of an aqua... Where did I get 6? No, 5, right? There was 5? Or was it just 4? Was it 4? Where did I get 5? I had 5 in my head. I don't know why. So there's 4 legendaries, right? Because there's an aqua breather. There was a a ring, an accessory, and a backpack, I want to say, right? I think those were the 4. Though didn't mention them during this preview. And alongside a new homestead set on one of Kestor's Island, fans of the housing system will also be pleased to hear about the introduction of records, collectibles that allow you to play any of the game's wonderful tracks in your homestead. Ooh, I love that. Records, nice. Notably, I was assured these won't ever be sold in the cash shop, only earned from in-game activities, which is great to hear. Awesome. This is really, really cool. So, for those of you that like the homesteading stuff, some great news. We're going to have records. I guess these are probably collectibles, meaning that these are probably going to be achievements. So you probably have to do like, do 20 events on, on Castora, or like in Shipwreck Strand, to get the record of those tracks, like of the tracks that play on that island, right? Or on that map, I mean. So it's probably going to be the same thing on all the other maps. We've seen this a little bit with the homestead decorations that they introduced that you could earn throughout the game, where if you go to a map, you would have to complete a set amount of events, and then you would get the recipe to make some kind of something that has to do with the map, right, for like your homestead. So it's probably going to be the same in that same category there, but yeah, you can earn music through the game, so it's through in-game stuff. That's really cool. Far and away, the most exciting feature of this expansion is the new slate of elite specializations. Guild Wars 2 subclasses that enhance and in many cases redefine how each class plays. I was already rather impressed with these during the public beta ArenaNet held not too long ago. Jesus. Thematically, some of these specs are the strongest the game has ever offered. Take the Engineer's T1000 coated amalgam, for example, a spec that fuses with a metallic ooze to manifest all manner of weaponry. My personal favorite, the Ranger Scale Shot, a specialization which fully embraces the Archer fantasy, flipping through. Well, he says that they're the strongest the game has ever offered, but that's because they were like, he mentions the 2 that were kind of very powerful, and specifically Amalgam was overtuned, and everyone knows that. So it's kind of like, okay, the strongest the game has ever offered, yeah, but that's probably gonna change. If not by release, then shortly after release, as they do balance patches and stuff like that. But yeah, so we already know about we've talked plenty, a specialization which really embraces the Archer, flipping through the air and barraging enemies with a conjured wind bow. Yeah, we've already talked plenty about these guys, so I won't go into that. New to me in this preview were all the changes made in response to the beta feedback, which Guild Wars 2's balance lead Cal Cohen walked us through. While the specializations I just listed didn't receive too many changes, having already been very well received, the surprising standout to me here was Revenant's new elite spec, the Conduit. During the beta, this was my least favorite of the bunch. This class revolves around channeling legends from the game's history to gain access to abilities, and the Conduit didn't add much to that. Its new mechanic revolved around charging a meter to press a single button for a little more than a passive damage boost, which didn't make use of Revenant's Flare or versatility. Here, however, that extra button offered more flavorful interactions, causing the Shiro legend abilities to fire out Jade Knives for a time, or making the Centaur legend abilities empowered, for example. Perhaps more importantly, Arena has given the spec a brand new second ability, which scales off that aforementioned meter. While channeling the new Raza legend, for instance, I could slam down a high damage scythe every 10 seconds, giving the spec a sense of flow and impact that was previously missing, even though Sleepy Eyes and Unfamiliar Keybinds made even though Sleepy Eyes and Unfamiliar Keybinds, these changes made the Conduit a blast to play, to the point that it's gone from the bottom of my most hyped for list to somewhere near the top. Similarly, I can attest that the changes made to other specs have addressed many of the criticisms for the beta, as outlined in the recent blog post. Okay, interesting. We still have that weird this was actually not his image, but we still have that weird detached arm there. I hope they fix that. But anyways, so it's interesting to hear that having it go from the very bottom to almost the very top of the list here So that's kind of cool. I like that. It's definitely. I've really been looking forward to the Conduit. I've been playing a lot on my Revenant. I'm playing obviously for Halloween right now. I'm kind of dipping into the Labyrinth a little bit, playing Herald and just providing boons and just getting all of the things right. But also in the open world, I've been playing a lot of the sorry, a lot of the Vindicator. And it's just so fun, and it's crazy because it's actually been years since I've seriously played Vindicator. I've played Vindicator like on and off, like every so often I jump on, but I forgot how exciting and fun it is to just like dodge and jump into the air and crash down. And when you have the Signet of Energy or a Signet of Stamina or something is what it's called. Anytime you defeat an enemy, you get a full endurance bar. So you jump up into the air, you crash down. If you have like enough might, you kill an enemy in one go, depending on what the enemy is, right? Maybe in two goes, because you can dodge twice, right? And so you dodge twice, your bar is empty, but the enemy dies, so your bar refills and you can dodge twice. So I just, when there's a group of enemies, right, and I'm attacking them, I'm just jumping into the air. And I can't be attacked because it's a dodge, so I'm evading. And it's just so fun to just like go up and down. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot how fun this was. So I've been having a really good time with that. I'm not a good Revenant player, but I will say that I'm enjoying Vindicator a lot. So, in that sense, I'm not too worried about Visions of Eternity lacking some revolutionary game-changing feature like expansions prior, since Elite specializations are game-changing in their own right in the way they revitalize all the game's current content. From what little I've seen, they're likely to be the main highlight of this expansion for me, but I still look forward to seeing what else is in store. So I think this is a little short-sighted here, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm really not, but I feel like it's a little short-sighted to say that because the article started with, isn't making a huge splash, but that might be okay. Kind of saying that he wasn't very, Austin wasn't very, he didn't seem very impressed by what he saw in the little bit of the preview that he did get. And that, he didn't seem very impressed by all the things, and the only thing that really impressed him were the elite specializations, and that is okay to him. But I think that's not giving enough credit because you only saw part of the first map. You saw the world boss, which is fine, right? You saw a couple of the events and you used the legendary aqua breather and stuff like that. So it's like you got to see some of the stuff there, which I guess, that, and that's fine. But I just think that it's not fair to really, because we're getting like a looking for group tool update and stuff like that's still on the books there, like that's coming out, and we haven't seen that. There's another map that he hasn't seen, and he probably hasn't seen the full first map. So I don't know. I feel like that's not quite fair to make that assessment, but it's also like I guess the way that I can take this is that it's the impression on the little bits that he has seen is this, right? But the thing is that I would change this title, not for him, but I'm saying like overall is what I've seen so far isn't making a huge splash, but that might be okay, right? Like you've only seen part of it, so to say the entire expansion isn't making a huge splash, do you see what I'm saying? Is a little like, I'm like, you haven't really seen the whole thing, so But anyways, so that was cool, kind of getting a little preview of that. Now let's look at the Flameseeker Chronicles here on Massively Overpowered. I want to go through that article as well, and then at the bottom they posted the Flythrough there, so we're gonna look at that as well. But like I said, I'm already like 30 minutes in, and I wanted to I don't want to take that much time, right? I will admit, when Arena first announced it was shifting its Guild Wars to release cadence to smaller, more frequent expansions a few years ago, I was a little nervous. It felt like a step down, especially since it meant that elite specs wouldn't be tied with each expansion. I love the fresh burst of energy excitement that used to come with big sizable expansions Guild Wars 2 has been pumping out since 2015, and I was afraid that these smaller packs would feel much less of an event and more like a living world release you have to pay for. And I kind of get that as well. To me, I kind of thought about this as well, and the other day I sat down a little bit and I thought about this. It was like kind of like a shower thought kind of thing where I was like kind of getting ready. This was actually yesterday. I was getting ready to record, and I was thinking, I'm like, it's interesting because the way that I feel about these expansions is the same way that I feel about how Living World, as the Living World is coming out. Specifically, I think I feel like a lot like season 2. Like season 3 and season 4 I was always like so excited for, and I was like, specifically season 4 I think was like some of their best stories, and I was like really involved back then with like I was like consumed by Guild Wars 2 at that. Like, it's just like everything in my life was about Guild Wars 2. And it was for a reason, right? Like, I think it was for a reason because it was just like a really well put together world season, Living World season. And but when I look at these expansion, I feel kind of the excitement that I had with season 2, where I'm like not really sure what to expect because this was like a new format for them as well, right? And we only get like a couple of new maps, right? And like we kind of get to explore a little bit there. That's kind of like season 2-ish for me, right? So I kind of had that same feeling. Not that I wasn't excited during season 2. I was hell of excited during season 2, but it was like a different feeling for me, right? And I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I don't know who's writing this. Who's writing this? Colin Henry. That's kind of a cool name. I don't know. That just kind of took me, I was like, whoa, okay. I'm happy to say I was wrong. While it's hard to deny that it is smaller in scope than, say, Path of Fire or End of Dragons, the latest expansion, Visions of Eternity, has proven to me that this game can still get me hyped. And getting my hands on it and wandering its colorful jungles has only got me more excited. And we see an image of him. This is not an antiquary. I mean, this might be an antiquary, but I think they're... isn't this one of the harvesting tools where you have like a script or something? Or is this actually like a skill that he's using? I don't know. On the Antiquary, I'm not sure. The devs describe Visions of Eternity as their action movie expansion. I love that that keeps coming up. I don't know what that means. Can someone explain that to me? Like action movie expansion? Putting the player at the center of the action, exploring uncharted parts of the world and making... and working to keep that intensity throughout. They cited a wide variety of inspiration from Tomb Raider to Indiana Jones to Atlantis: The Lost Empire. I love all of that, right? As you guys know, I love spelunking and I love tomb raiding. Like, I've always been a fan of Tomb Raider as a concept. Not that I'm good at the games at all, and like I've tried to play them many times, but I fail at them so much. But I love the idea. I love the idea of going into like these old jungles or ruins or whatever, and like finding like these lost civilizations and uncovering this mystery, reading the murals and like looking at those. I love that. Like, something about that just excites me so much, and I've always wanted a game like that, right? Like, I've always wanted a game where I could like explore a world and have these like little dungeons that I could just like explore. Like, that's a game that I would want. And a lot of games have gotten to that point where I feel like that kind of like Skyrim feels a little bit like that, right? Where you go in and you find these little dungeons and you can explore them, stuff like that. But the thing is also that a lot of those Elder Scrolls dungeons they feel very samey fairly quickly, because you kind of encounter the same enemies all the time, and it's the same kind of like stuff that you find, and a lot of it is like, I don't know. Some of it is very, very like... It doesn't feel... I don't know. There's something about that where, like, yes, I do like that, but I wish it was, like, better. And then Elden Ring gave me that a little bit, too, because you can actually find, like, catacombs throughout. And I remember when I first started playing, like, Elden Ring, I was like, oh, man, it's another catacomb. But then after, like, your third, fourth catacomb, you're like, oh, my God, it's the same shit again. It's the same enemies. It's the same stuff in there. You still find treasure and stuff like that. But I like to explore a world that has these dungeons that you can go into, and you never know what you're gonna encounter in those dungeons, and I always love that feeling. So, and Tomb Raider always had that, right? Because Tomb Raider, as you go through the little levels, through the different levels of Tomb Raider, they always have they have new concepts and new things and new assets, and and it's kind of designed around that you're finding these different tombs and dungeons and whatever, and they're all designed like differently because it's like, you know, across, like on completely different like continents and stuff like that. So I've always wanted something like that in a game, and Guild Wars 2 has been like that. It's one of the reasons why I like the Ascalonian Catacombs so much, because it has that spelunking feel, but it kind of misses the exploration part of it for me when it comes to like going into the dungeon. You know, once you do the dungeon once, it's like you already know everything about it, kind of thing, you know. I know many players, myself included, expressed displeasure with the past couple of expansions that had long drawn out story instances with lots of NPCs talking to each other, and I wonder if this change in emphasis was a reaction to that. Okay, so we're not getting all these conversations anymore, which I think is a good change. I think having long drawn out conversations not only is expensive to maintain in an MMO, because you have to pay for voice actors and you pay them by the hour, I'm sure, like, right? Or by the amount of, you know, by the amount of lines that they say or whatever, right? Like, so the more they have to say, the you know, just give us more action, right? Like, give us more of that, because I feel like that's going to be cheaper in the long run. The story revolves around the island of Castor, an island never before seen in Guild Wars lore. Sailors believe the place to be cursed, and no one who sails there ever returns. It turns out the situation was largely due to treacherous storms caused by a confluence of Elder Dragon magic. Okay, so the storms were caused by a confluence of Elder Dragon magic. That implies a lot. That implies that multiple Elder Dragons probably wanted to go to Castora, but because they all kind of converged at the same time, maybe, that it caused some kind of, you know, these storms. Weird. Now that the Elder Dragon cycle has ended, the Inquests have taken an interest in unlocking the island's secrets. At the start of the expansion, players will pursue the Inquest and find themselves washed up among the Hull Gardeners. Hull Gardeners? Interesting. A community of shipwreck survivors who have committed to banding together to survive along the shores of the harsh environment. They have built cities out of pieces of wrecked ships, not unlike Old Lines Arch. So if you guys liked Old Lines Arch, I guess you're going to find it on Castora now. They stay along the shoreline to avoid the dangerous creatures who live further inland. Okay, so that's what this little house here is, and this ship right here. The Hull Gardeners, I guess a community of shipwreck survivors. So we have these guys that are just hanging out here, whether they want to or not, I guess, right? They're kind of trapped here. While the Hull Gardeners are all about living peacefully and sharing with their community, not everyone who washes up on the shore of Castor is so friendly. The Freebooters, a mishmash of different pirate groups from around Tyria, live deeper in the jungles. If that doesn't sound bad enough, the Inquest have allied with the Freebooters and supplied them with advanced tech, and together they are using that tech to cybernetically enhance and weaponize the already dangerous local wildlife, like the red neon-clad dinos you may have seen in the trailers. The Inquest often ends up being a bit of a joke, with lots of self-absorbed mad scientist types, so I'm excited to see the organization's more menacing side. I feel like, yes, they usually end up being a joke, but I also think that during season 4, they were pretty menacing to me. I think when I look at like Rada Primus and stuff, and really see how they treat their employees, you know, it's like this pyramid type like company, right? And so they treat their like the people that they're in charge of, they treat them like trash, right, for the most part, and they kind of lie to them, and it's all like this weird like you know, corporate entity kind of thing. But then also on the other side, it was like we found like we had to free the prisoners that they had in that episode 2, right? Like Sandswept Isle, that episode, we had to free their prisoners, and they were doing experiments on them, and they were doing like all kinds of stuff. And then we kind of meet Kuda, who's doing experiments as well. So we've kind of seen a darker side to them, and it'll be interesting to kind of see them go full like crazy on that in this expansion. We were shown the first Zones meta event, which involves 2 freebooter pirate pirates' lieutenants. After breaking their shield, everyone in the area is polarized, either positive or negative, as are the bosses. The bosses escape through portals, and players must enter the portal that matches their polarity, or find themselves unable to deal damage. Your polarity will periodically shift, so keep an eye on the symbol over your head. It's a nice way to teach the ever-present everyone split up evenly between the two bosses mechanic without needing to organize things. So it's interesting that, what is his name? Colin? Colin takes like what Austin had earlier and puts a positive spin on that, right? Like where Austin was kind of like, well, that's kind of boring and it's kind of like not really what we're like promised, because we thought this was going to be for more like people that have been playing this game for a long time. Like these expansions are supposed to be a lot more about that. You know, Colin here takes it as like, no, this is like really cool because it teaches a specific mechanic about splitting up, right? It kind of teaches that to the players, so that's kind of nice. I am personally super pumped to play the new Elite specs that are coming with this expansion. A lot of work has gone into them since the beta back in August. ArenaNet has already detailed those changes in its own blog post, so I won't belabor them here. Something players have been wondering since the announcement that this set of Elite specs would not come with new weapon masteries is, what about those specialization themed Ascended weapons? They used to come with each new Elite spec. Well, we won't be getting any themed spec weapons, but we will be getting a new armor set that is earned by completing various similar in-game achievements and activities. Okay, interesting. So we get a whole armor set that we can earn by completing. So instead of just getting like one piece, I don't think we're going to get a new armor set for each Elite spec, but that would be kind of crazy. Another tentpole feature of this expansion is the upgraded skimmer mount masteries. While the speedy Stingray has been useful for traversing over water since its introduction in Path of Fire, and for exploring underwater shortly thereafter, Visions of Eternity gives the aquatic mount a set of new tricks, most notably its new 2 skill, which will allow you to fly higher and move faster for a period of time, and its upgraded 1 skill, which allows the player to dash forward without dismounting unless the 1 key is held down. Already heard all about that. This expansion also brings with it the game's first legendary Aqua Breather. There's a sentence I never thought I'd type, but here we are. While Aqua Breathers aren't regarded as terribly useful, this legendary does have one nice feature that makes it stand out from other legendary armor. Once added to your legendary army, it can be used by any character on your account on any armor class. Great, I love that. Absolutely love that. The Aqua Breather is called Silachimorpha. Silicimorpha. I don't know how to pronounce that. The scientific class name for sharks. And when equipped underwater, will surround the player with a school of fish, and shark fins will grow out of their back and arms. If you want to show off your magical scuba gear while on land, don't worry, you can transmute any helmet to look like Salicomorpha, though it won't have the special effects on land. The fact that this expansion boasts both a legendary Aqua Breather and an upgrade to the skimmer has led some players to wonder if this islandy expansion will feature a lot of underwater combat, as 3-dimensional combat is often clunky, and depending on your class and spec, many of your key skills may not function underwater. When we asked about this, the devs surprised us by saying that yes, the expansion will feature an emphasis on underwater content in the form of exploration, but players shouldn't expect significant more underwater combat than previous releases. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Because this goes hand in hand with something that I talked about a little bit, where, you know, the skimmer is getting the ability to look for treasure, right? And as you guys know, I love going through like Janthia Sintry and Lowland Shore and digging up the treasure chests with my mount, right? But then I kind of got to thinking, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, and I talked about this when they talked about the skimmer masteries and stuff. It's like, okay, well, if we're only able to find treasure in the water, which they have clearly said that the treasure chests are in the water, I'm like, they need to add a significant amount of water for us, in order for us to be able to do that, right? And so I was kind of sitting there and I was like, man, that kind of sucks, right? Because I'm like, that's, you know, like, because everything they've been saying is like on land, right? And then, but then they're adding the skimmer, which has like underwater. So if we have exploration that we can do, where we can find caves underwater or maybe tunnels underwater, we've seen that in in Tangled Depths, right? There's like this whole tunnel system that you can go under. That's an underwater tunnel system, and you can kind of swim through it and stuff. And I actually, when I did my underwater expansion video, I actually took a lot of footage for that, right? But it like, I think that's really cool. I really like that, because then that kind of gives you the ability, like I said, to hey, you know what? I'm gonna just, like, for me, this is like perfect for me. This is, and I feel like this is very specific for people that are like me, that just go into the map and maybe they don't want to do, because I like to do different things. I'm gonna tell you guys, I was grinding the labyrinth the other day, and you know, I can only do about 30 minutes of it, and then I'm like, oh my god, I literally, I get irrationally angry, because I absolutely hate grinding the same thing over and over and over again. It's one of the reasons why I can't really play too many MMOs and stuff like that, because a lot of them have you do like the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh my god, this is making me so irrationally angry, because it is the same thing. Like, we're running around the labyrinth for like, and just the same thing is happening over and over again. I need a change. Like, I need something, and I just left, right? And so I played the game a little differently, right? Like, I like to do different things. I like to go around and like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, right? Like, one of the reasons why I like going around Geanthio Sentry to look for treasures, because they're not always in the same location, right? Like, if I knew that they're always in the same location, I probably wouldn't be doing that as much. But the idea is that I'm like, oh, I'm looking for where the treasure's now. Oh, is it in this spot this time, or is it over here, right? And it feels like it's kind of, I get something different every time, right? It's like, oh, where can I find the like chests everywhere, you know? And so having this whole like underwater exploration thing that's like a whole separate part to what's happening on land is really cool to me. I really like that, and I feel like that's probably, it probably works with the verticality, because it sounds like everything, all the events and stuff like that, are happening on like the main part of it, right? The main island part, the beachy part of it, right? But then you have like these underwater areas and tunnels and caves and stuff like that you can explore, where there's probably not a lot of combat. There might be like caves where you have enemies hanging out and stuff like that, but you know, maybe not in the water, and you can kind of like collect items in the treasure in the water and stuff like that. So that's really, really cool. I really appreciate that Arena is pushing the story into new and untapped areas of the world. As much as I enjoyed revisiting places like Cantha and the Crystal Desert, there's so much on the map of Tyria that hasn't been explored. It would be so easy for this team to play it safe in nostalgia land, and I wouldn't hate it if we got back there someday. But for now, it's exciting to see Guild Wars 2 breaking free of its predecessor while still remembering where it came from. Blah, blah, blah. The Starlit Weald is the second map, for fear of spoilers. That's the second map. Interesting. So I kind of want to address this for a second, because this was something that I thought about the other day as well. You know, one thing that I would like to see is maybe some kind of expansion that expands on areas, right? One of the things that was kind of exciting about Season 3, and I don't know if you guys remember, those of you that played Season 3, you might remember this. One of the exciting things about Season 3 was that we never knew where the expansions would, or where the next release of the Living World would go, right? Because we got 6 maps, and they kind of had these all be disconnected, right? Season 4 was a little bit different, because we knew it was going to be somewhere in the desert, right? So they were all like in that same region, kind of. But there's still the idea that we went to places and we didn't really know where we would go, right? And so I really, really kind of want to go back to that at some point. Maybe not next expansion, whatever, but I would love to see the idea of like, because now we know that the maps are all going to be on Castor, right? We know that they're going to be like on that, you know, over there on that island and stuff, but it would be kind of cool to get some, like, get an expansion where we don't know exactly where the maps are bringing us. That would be kind of cool. I kind of want to go back to that a little bit and kind of get like different places around the map and maybe fill out the map in that sense, because that's what I kind of also felt like with the Living World. We kind of filled out these places around the world where we can kind of plug in and be like, okay, we can see some of these things here that maybe we saw in Guild Wars 1, maybe we didn't, but we can fill out these different places all around, kind of thing. So But yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. It was almost like a different take on the same stuff that we heard. We kind of got like two sides of the same coin, where one person was a little frustrated and wasn't very impressed by the things that were happening. The other person was more impressed by the things that were happening. So you kind of get like a little bit of both sides, and you can see where you stand on the spectrum of that, right? I lean more towards the second article because, like I said, the first article, the second article seems to understand more of like, this is just a preview and there's only like a couple things we're actually seeing, where the first article is like, well, if that's all that we're previewing, I don't think we're gonna really see anything crazy after that or whatever, so. But anyways, let's watch this fly-through video, and yeah, let's see. Oh, I don't have sound on. Really loud. Okay, super interesting. I really like that. I'm gonna turn off the sound here, and we're gonna kind of go through bit by bit. So we see the shipwrecks underwater. Nothing exciting here, I don't think. And as we go up, we see obviously like Orient ships. We've seen these many a times. This has been here for a long time, obviously, because there's trees growing on it. So anytime we've seen shipwrecks, I don't think they've really had like foliage on it like that. So these have always obviously been here for a long time. Oh, yeah, okay. I was just looking at some. We've kind of seen this stuff anyway, so we see like floating platforms. I don't think there's anything new here. We see this in like, I don't know if this is daytime or if this is like dawn or something. I don't know, or like twilight or something. I'm not sure, but it has this like orange hue, which is really cool. We see just more of the map. I don't think there's anything interesting here. I don't know what that is. What is that? I don't know what that is. That looks weird to me because it looks like a mirror or something. I don't know what that... Doesn't it? What does that look like to you guys? What is that? Yeah, I don't know what that is. That looks like a weird like obelisk or something of some kind. Some kind of obelisk is what that looks like to me. Is that a creature down there? Down here? You guys can't really see that I'm circling, but looks like a creature of some kind. Yeah, there's another obelisk up here. Some kind of floating obelisk. I wonder... There has to be something... There has to be some significance to them, right? This is another one right here. So there's two floating obelisks. Is this gonna be a hint as to like the civilization here? Because I will say, in this whole fly through, we didn't see any of the ruins. And it sounds like, it looks like to me the ruins are on the second map. They're not on this map. So it's very interesting. I don't know what those are. It's some kind of floating obelisk thing. We get some of these people hanging out. These are the hole gardeners hanging out. We get that cool red-leafed tree. Bird flying around. We get a guy on lookout here. I don't think there's anything. There's some kind of creature in the water here. With a fin. This is kind of weird because it's like a pond in the middle of this thing, and there's just like one of those creatures. I forgot what they're called, but one of these guys hanging out in there. But they have technology that's taking the water out of it, and I guess that's what's supplying this whole community. But this is the little outpost here. We get to see little outposts of the Hull Gardeners. It looks like to me, and this is like their beach resort kind of thing. Looks really cool. It looks like a part, so we can see the red tree in the background, so we know that on the far right there, and we see a raptor up here too, but on the like behind this like stone, this cliff thing here, that is where that other this house is, right? We know that so when we see that, I think the big tree is where this community is, right? Like, that's what it looks like. So this is right outside of the community. The red tree is where the community is at. So this is where the red tree is. Right up here on this thing is where the red tree is, right on here. This is where they're hanging out. Down there is a ship we just saw. Okay, just to give you guys like an outline of how this all pieces together. And then if we go around this corner, and you can kind of see a little bit back there, if we go around this corner here is where the next shot is. And that is where this is, right? And we can kind of come through here. Again, the red tree is where they're hanging out. This is the little city that they have built, is this like red tree. And there's a waypoint here. But yeah, so that is that is the actual little city of the Hall Gardeners that they have built. Just to give you guys a little like breakdown of what that all looks like. Let's see here. Then we get this shot, and this is really interesting. So we get the dragonflies, right? I'm guessing this is where, if we're gonna get a pet of these, and this was something that Mishking, one of our community members, has pointed out like numerous times now, and it's like never sticking with me. But anytime we get like a mount skin, which we have seen, so in the previews we've seen the commander riding one of these, and that's going to be one of the mount skins there, right? And whenever we've gotten one of these, it was the same thing with the journeykin, right? We would get a minute, like a smaller version, a juvenile version of that as a pet. So we're probably gonna get one of these as a pet. And I just, so that's really cool. That's probably where you're gonna get it. Seems to be a nest. There's a lot of magic here, right? This red leafed tree here, the roots of one of those holding up the thing, but there's a lot of magic here. The thing that stands out the most to me is the idea of all these swords in here. Why are they here? Is this a place of where where someone battled, right? You can see all these swords, and that's really cool to me, because that kind of tells me that there've been either this is like a graveyard of some sort, or this is like a place of where they did battle. Maybe a bunch of people came together here and they tried to take hold of this magic or something, right? Not that this is like anything significant, but this might have been just some kind of like maybe dueling place or something. I don't know, but it's very weird that we have all these swords stuck in the sand like that. It's really interesting to me. And then we see the interest. There's a Derv here. A Derv with an updated, this is like updated. Usually they had just like a regular like orb-like cover. This is like a hexagonals, like little hexagonal shield thingies here. But this is to the entrance to one of the inquest lab. I'm guessing the main inquest lab on the island. We get a shot of that inside. They seem to be studying different things, right? They seem to be studying the flora, the phenomenon of like the floating stuff, the floating rings and stuff like that. Like how's their how's there unlimited water coming out of this, right? We talked a little bit. Actually, someone, it's very interesting. Someone pointed this out, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but someone pointed this out, and I totally forgotten about it. But in the video that I released yesterday, we talked a little bit about the God's influence and stuff like that, and Orient. But someone commented and talked about the idea of the druid spirits when we go to like Draconis Mons and stuff, and they talked about how they, the influence of Melandra kind of, once Melandra kind of left, the influence of Melandra kind of waned, and they decided to spread across Tyria and create different gardens all across Tyria. And so they actually they actually kind of hint at that there's other like magically infused gardens, so to say, of Melandru, of these plants and stuff. So could Castora be a place where we're gonna find other druid spirits that they have like ventured to and stuff? So it's an interesting thought for sure. I really love that. I totally forgot about that. Then we get water running down here. I don't know if this is like the freebooters or if this is still the Hull Gardeners. Like, are these friendlies or enemies? But they're worshiping one of the pineapple choyas that we saw, or something. They have an altar to them. I don't know if this is just like a tranquil hangout or something like that. I don't know. Then we get a night shot. This is very interesting because I see wings flapping of a creature that I feel like I've never seen before. And we also see this weird Inquest drone. So I have a feeling that because these are red, these might be some of the dragonflies that the Inquest took in and modified with their cybernetic technology and created maybe like cybernetic dragonfly creatures. And then we also have this drone, and we've kind of seen these similar ones when we go to like Rada Novus. In Heart of Thorns and stuff, we've seen these kind of drones, and usually they have like a laser that points down and it hurts you a lot. We see, I think they look very similar to those drones from back then. But you will kind of see, I was looking at that, you'll kind of see it like floating back and forth. So I'm not sure what the reason there is, but there's a lot of ambient magic here. I wonder if we can collect this magic, or if it just kind of is like just hanging out there. I don't know there, but yeah, watch this, right? And it kind of floats back and forth. And this is like the final shot of this, and it's kind of cool because we get a new night sky, so it's going to be very interesting to kind of maybe there's something new. I don't know if they're highlighting this tree for a specific reason. Again, we talked a little bit about Malik's tree. I don't think that this is Malik's tree, because if we look at something like the pale tree is a very unique looking tree because it has these large white leaves and stuff. I don't think that a Sylvari tree would look like a regular tree, but it would have probably very unique features to it. So I wouldn't say that this is, anything very important, but maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe there's something right underneath it. But yeah, we have this creature there, kind of spins around. It's definitely, it uses the skimmer model on it, right, where it kind of looks around, which we have seen. But I think that might be an Inquest like a changed Inquest thingy there. So very interesting. I think that was very, very cool. I like I liked everything that I saw. I am very excited. Yeah, and I don't know. I just want to get into it and kind of explore it and make theories and see how the theories that we've made pan out and where the story goes. And map 2, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Map 1 is really cool because I've talked about this. I always wanted to see a beach type map, as like a level 80 map, like as a map that you can go and hang out and like, really like, because Southdown Cove, there's really no reason to go there because it's just Karka, and Karka are just so difficult to defeat. They just take so long. And then there's also like a lot of empty space on the map where there's nothing going on, and there's a couple of like jumping puzzles and adventures and stuff like that, but it's nothing exciting really to do there. And I really wish they would like revitalize Southdown Cove in a way. But other than that, we don't really have like an end game beach map where you can hang out and earn rewards and like do whatever. So I'm very excited to see that. But I will tell you guys, with the ruins being on the second map, I'm more excited to go to the second map because I feel like we're gonna get a lot more insight into the history of Castora going to the second map and stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that a lot as well. So Anyways, that's gonna be it for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys want to support the channel, I have all kinds of links down below. So use any of those links. Like I said, I'm going to be working on some more merch. There is if you've never played Guild Wars 2, there is a link down below, a free-to-play link. If you click that, I get credit for it. If you're buying any of the expansions, there's another link down below. Use that link. If you're buying any of the expansions, and I get credit for it. We have memberships available on YouTube. I'm trying to grow the memberships there. We have super chats available, the whole thing. So if you guys want to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, I will probably see you guys. I think there's going to be there's probably going to be something tomorrow that's going to come out, I feel like, blog post wise or something. So you'll probably see me tomorrow. I don't know if you're going to see me the rest of the week, depending on really what ArenaNet, like, I don't know if they're like ramping up on all these things, if there's going to be more press stuff or more previews of something or whatever. You know, maybe we're going to see map 2 or something, I'm not sure. But anyways, that's going to be it from me for today, and I will see you guys most certainly for the expansion, which I will be streaming and I'm very excited for. So thank you guys, and I'll see you then. All right, bye guys.